Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So it's been a busy and exciting spoiler season day. Yeah, a lot of exciting cards coming out, including this one. Yeah, they've been really doing some really cool kind of flip cards, and I am definitely into them. Definitely into this one. Tarrian's Journal. Not sure who Tarrian is. We probably already know, but anyways. Tarrian's got a pretty cool journal that's covered in blood for some reason. Anyways, legendary artifact for 1 in a black that says tap, sacrifice another artifact or creature, draw a card, activate only as a sorcery. So first up, let's just evaluate that. 2 mana for a repeatable, yes, not on the same turn, and yes, at sorcery speed, sacrifice outlet with card advantage. Yeah, that can be really good. There are certain types of decks that just already want that part of this. Again, basically, hey, sacrifice creature for value. Aristocrat style decks typically go that way. Or maybe you've got a commander that has a death trigger that you really want to take advantage of, etc., etc., etc. But here is where the real spice comes in. Pay 2, tap, discard your hand. You don't see that in too many cards. Transform it. So, yeah. The cost of transforming this is pretty absurd. You need to discard your entire hand. Now, I guess that is a variable cost, right? Technically, it could be really, really bad. You could have, well, 7 cards in your hand, and you might not want to do that. Now, there are situations where you might want to. We'll talk about those here in a little bit, and some commanders that can take advantage of this. But yeah, if you got 7, that's probably not a good move in most games of Commander, or most games in Magic in general. You just go to no cards at all, and you're like, oh, well, hopefully I top deck. That being said, the reason that cost is so high is because of the potential of the backside of this card, which is the Tomb of Aclazotz, a legendary land. It's a cave. Apparently, we have caves now. It can tap for a black, and it can tap, and you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard this turn. If you do it, enters the battle with a finality counter on it, and is a vampire and its other types. The creature finality counter on it would die, exile instead. I am really glad they actually keyworded that because... keyworded, countered it, whatever it is. Because, yeah, it's just kind of, it makes it easier to keep track of with that kind of stuff. That makes more sense than like, hey, bring it back, and then just remember that it has to go away. Yeah, giving it a counter. I know we've got a million different kinds of counters, but I think that this one's actually pretty merited. Regardless, yeah, being able to just, well, first up, ramp. Good for you. Good for you, Mono Black. You can ramp now by turning this into a land. But more importantly, of course, being able to just cast creature spells out of your graveyard. Again, a creature spell. You cannot cast multiple with this, just one. So, yeah, that is pretty fantastic. Again, your graveyard essentially becomes an extension of your hand, which is fantastic. You're basically just tapping this for, it technically is a land, right? So you're kind of like paying 1 mana to be able to cast any creature out of your graveyard. You still have to cast it. You still have to pay for it. But still, that is a massive, massive, massive benefit to recur creatures, to reanimate creatures essentially, and yeah, get a ton of value out of them, get extra value back out of them. Now, keep in mind, of course, hey, again, if it would die, it gets exiled this time. So if you do have a deck that really cares about creatures and graveyards and coming back and, maybe abusing ETBs and death triggers, you need to be careful of this because, again, you are nixing a portion of, well, your benefits. Again, if you have that creature in play and you sacrifice it and you're like, cool, I get my death triggers. No, it gets exiled instead, so you're not getting a death trigger. So keep that in mind. That being said, there are ways around this, like, bouncing it back to your hand, removing that counter in a way, etc., etc., etc. Blinking it. There are ways to get that counter out of there because, again, it says if it would die, exile instead. It does not say like if it would go anywhere else. So you can actually, get around that essentially. That being said, yeah, again, incredibly powerful effect. Again, the cost of which is pretty extensive. But hey, you know what? There are certain cards out there that actually make you discard your hand that players in Commander like to play for one reason or another. And there's certain commanders out there that really, really want this card for the front side and the back side as well. Let's jump into something very interesting first, though. Because this card is very, well, in a way, at least with that one part, comparable to a card with one with nothing. This card is infamously, I don't know if it's really infamous, but it's kind of one of the biggest jokes in Magic, but also a very cool card because it just shows that even a terrible card like this one, let's just read it, instant for a single black mana, discard your hand. Yeah, just imagine cracking that in a pack way back when in a draft and being like, oh, that's my rare. Okay then. Yeah, that's pretty terrible. So essentially, this is a card that, well, is absolutely awful, is terrible, is so bad that it actually can be good. There are actually, again, times in Magic where discarding your hand is the right move, and you can get a lot of value out of that. Now, obviously, this new card technically costs 4 mana to do it, and it's not, instant speed. I mean, actually, I guess that part is instant speed. Sure. Regardless, hey, it's a different kind of card. It still utilizes this very, very detrimental mechanic, essentially, of just saying, my hand is gone. So it is definitely a very, very, very cool technique that you can utilize in very, very awesome decks. And just discarding your hand just shows your opponents that, you know what, I like to live life on the wild side. And with certain commanders, really take advantage of that wild side too. Because now I'm going to bring up some commanders that you might want to, well, consider with this card. First up, Oscar the Grouch. 3/3 human wizard for 5 mana total in Dimir. The spell costs once cast for each different mana value among cards in your graveyard. So there you go. You can make Oscar cheaper. But more importantly, on top of that, whenever you discard a non-land card, you may cast it from your graveyard. So yeah, keep that in mind. You can actually just say, you know what, on that turn when you are discarding your hand, maybe it's a couple of cards, and maybe you can still cast some of them. So you essentially say, I'm not really losing out on the cards I'm discarding. I'm just actually gaining the value of flipping it over to the backside again, which has a lot of applications. So yeah, Oscar, depending on your deck, if you've got enough artifacts, enough creatures, if you got ones that actually want to be sacrificed, ones that you can utilize from your graveyard, or maybe just want to sacrifice Oscar again and again and again because you can cast it for pretty cheap, yeah, make sure you're considering this card. Next up, though, and you need to be careful about ones like this, but a commander like, Muldrotha might be able to consider this one. Muldrotha is a 6/6 elemental avatar for 6 mana, and oh goodness, my mind just went blank really quick. Black, green, blue. Sultai. Why did I forget that? It's been a long day. Anyways, I've been up early working. My apologies. Here we go. During each of your turns, you may play up to 1 permanent card of each permanent type from your graveyard. Yeah, so basically you are kind of doing a better version of, well, what this, book wants to do. That being said, both sides of the new book actually work for you, essentially. Being able to tap, sacrifice an artifact creature can be fantastic because with a Muldrotha deck, there might be some, well, LTBs and also ETBs that you really want to take advantage of. So by sacrificing that permanent, being able to recast it out of your graveyard, cool. You just get to take advantage of that ETB again and again and again, while also drawing cards with that book. Then also, hey, you know what? Your library is kind of like a second hand as it is, right? So discarding your hand into your graveyard isn't that big of a deal. And then sure, if you want to play multiple creatures in any turn from your graveyard, you can. Again, one with Muldrotha, and then one with your transformed land book thing. There you go. So again, be careful because that creature will come back and play with a finality counter on it, and then obviously you're not getting that creature back again. So yeah, if there are certain creatures that you really want to make sure you can keep getting back again and again and again with Spore Frog, I said Spore Frog. With Muldrotha, yeah, Spore Frog is the one that was on my mind. That was what I was going to mention. I said it instead of Muldrotha, but yeah. Something like that you might not want to lose permanently, yeah, you might want to not utilize that aspect of it. But again, you've got so much value with Muldrotha already, you're probably okay with losing some creatures permanently when they actually leave. Moving on, look no hands, because yeah, we have some commanders that actually don't care about not having a hand in one way or another. Because we've got Malfegor. Malfegor is a 6/6 demon dragon for 6 mana in Rakdos, and my goodness is this chaotic. Flying, enters the battlefield, discard your hand. Goodbye, hand. Each opponent sacrifices a creature for each card discarded this way. So, yeah, I mean, to start things off, you're just like, okay, I play my commander, I discard 5 cards, all your creatures are gone. Goodbye, every creature in play, other than my own. And then, of course, what you can do is you can say, I'd like to activate my book now when I have no hand. Again, basically just now 2 mana, transform it, instead of 2 mana discard your hand. It is that, but you have no cards in your hand, so you're fine, right? You're just like, okay, I flip it. Awesome, I discarded my hand, I got some creatures in my graveyard. This is pretty crazy synergy where you're like, okay, cool, I'll play that card I discarded. Good for me. And my opponents are still in big trouble because they've got no creatures in play. So yeah, Malfegor, a commander that doesn't really care about having a hand or doesn't want to have a hand or likes to get rid of its hand. Yeah, this is definitely a commander that can consider this one. Another one though, Sauron the Dark Lord. 7/6 avatar that has ward, sacrifice ledger artifact or ledger creature that can be really hard to deal with for 6 mana in Grixis. Whenever opponent casts a spell, amass 1 orcs. So that is already a great thing to basically be able to tap, sacrifice one of those, draw a card. fantastic. So you can just rebuild an army again and again and again. On top of that, though, whenever an army you control deals counter to a player, the ring tempts you. Whenever the ring tempts you, you may discard your hand if you do draw 4 cards. So if you've got some armies in play, maybe you got some changelings or whatnot, yeah, if you get through on your opponents, cool, discard your hand that you don't have because you activated your book thing to make a land, and then all of a sudden, well, you get to draw 4 cards. So you basically are like negating the downside of it again by saying, yeah, I don't care about not having a hand. I'm already planning on not having a hand anyways, so I might as well just do this. So yeah, commanders that don't care about hands, care about, having no cards in hand, they are fantastic with this kind of a card. And finally, one that I want to mention to just kind of exemplify a category, let's talk about Marchesa the Black Rose, a 3/3 wizard for 4 mana and Grixis. A lot of Grixis and Rakdos with these kind of recommendations. Dethrones, whenever it attacks player with the most life or tied for the most life, counter on it. Other creature control of dethrone, and on top of that, whenever a creature control of a +1 counter on it dies, return the card to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. So, what you do with this one typically is you say, threaten. I will threaten all your creatures, all gain control, mob class, mob rule, insurrection, whatever, and then I will sacrifice your creatures, and then I get to keep them because I'll swing with, I should say, you attack with the creature first, you dethrone, you get counters on them, then you sacrifice them, and they come back into play again under your control, not the owner's control, your control. So you're basically stealing creatures with this kind of aristocrat style commander, and again getting extra value from your book by sacrificing that creature and drawing a card. So being able to steal and also gain advantage from it, that's fantastic. And on top of that, sure, at a certain point, if you really want to sacrifice your hand and just say, cool, let's go get creatures out of my graveyard, great, you can do that as well. Again, with these aristocrat style recommendations, reanimator recommendations, you just kind of need to be careful because, again, yeah, that finality counter does make a difference for some of them. Not being able to get certain things back is pretty big, or yeah, just losing your hand completely can be pretty big as well. So this card is not for everyone, but it is quite spicy in decks like Marchesa that can really utilize it. But now this episode is coming to a close. It's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts are on this card. Yeah, I think it's quite spicy. Anytime you can just say, hey, this is like one with nothing. It's like, okay, I'm interested. Yeah, sign me up for that because this has a lot of potential, I think. Again, with the right deck, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. But still, just at a base value, hey, tap, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw a card. Unfortunately, sorcery speed still can be very effective in certain decks out there that, what's that one? Dockside Chef. Dockside Chef sees a good amount of play, right? That's repeatable. Sure, yes, I know. But still, this one's on artifact, probably a little harder to deal with. And it also has the potential to say, I'm going to go one with nothing, and then all of a sudden cast a lot of things on my graveyard and have fun with that. So yeah, a very spicy card. Yeah, pick one up, maybe. Yeah, if it's budget friendly and it works in your deck. Don't pick it up if it doesn't work in your deck. So yeah, or actually, if you really want to make a one with nothing kind of style deck where you just have a lot of cards that discard your entire hand, go for it. That could be quite fun. Regardless, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you stay tuned for more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming out. Probably not today because, well, it's been a long day. Tomorrow, though. Definitely tomorrow. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.